Pulp Fiction. It's an ear-to-ear grin whilst a stroll through a hospital emergency room. So, here I've got Pulp Fiction, and I want to say before I really get into it, I have a really hard time reviewing stuff that is really, really, really good and that I really, really, really love, because a lot of the time those things are very genre-defying and hard for me to describe in a way that isn't just like, you just gotta see it, you just gotta read it, you have to listen to it, whatever. It's so amazing. Like, it's really hard for me to break it down, especially without spoilers. So there will be spoilers, kind of, later on, and I'll let you know before I get there. But Pulp Fiction is one of my favorite films of all time. It is... Oh my goodness, why is this disc falling out? It is in my top 10 films of all time, and has been there since probably high school, or whenever I decided I needed to make a top 10 list. What is it? It is a crime, drama, dark comedy. At least that's what I'm going to call it. It is directed by Quentin Tarantino. It has many, many stars. I will name a few of them here. John Travolta, Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, Uma Thurman, Tim Roth, Ving Rhames, to name just a few. It was released in 1994. So, it is funny, to me, and we'll get into that more. It is thought-provoking in a very different way than I normally talk about. It's tense, even the tension is different. It's engaging, it's subdued, and it's intense. I feel like none of those adjectives really describe it that well for what it is. I just don't think they do. But they'll have to do. So, emotionally, what do I feel when I watch it? I feel really comfortable and relaxed. I feel like I am taking in the dialogue and just enjoying it, but also other times I'm on the edge of my seat, and it's interesting to have that dynamic be in a film like that, or like this, all the way through. It's just this, that push and pull, but it doesn't feel disjointed, it doesn't feel... It flows so nicely. It doesn't feel bumpy or abrasive or jarring. It just is cut so well. The transitions, the sequencing, everything happens at such a masterpiece level that you can have these two very different things happening where, you know, I feel like while I'm saying that, it's like, yeah, any horror movie would do that. There's push and pull. It kind of gives you you chill out and calm down and relax. Everything's fine. No, it's not. Here you go. There's a lot of that happens with things like horror movies. They're trying to create suspense or intensity. But this is not that. One, it's not a horror movie, and it doesn't need to rely on that. And the thing is that a lot of horror movies and stuff, sometimes they do that in a very cheap way. And this is anything but. Again, this is masterpiece work. This is something to aspire to. Getting back to emotions, I smile a lot during this movie. I find it funny. I find it amusing. I find it entertaining. I find that when I am on the edge of my seat, I'm still smiling while I'm on the edge of my seat. I mean, part of it is that I know what's coming. It's different. So it's like, man, I really wish I could watch it for the first time all over again. Yeah. How do I summarize this movie? Again, I'm not giving spoilers yet. If we look at the title, first of all, Pulp Fiction. It is, man, I don't even know. Sometimes, here's the thing. I review movies like Donnie Darko, and I'm just like, how the heck do I even talk about this? It's again, that's another one of my top 10s. It's one of my favorite movies. I don't know how to discuss it in any intelligent way because I'm a dummy, and it's too challenging for me to speak about in a way that is accurate, engaging, honest, and true, because I'm just a blubbering idiot because I love it so much, and I can't even express why. It's like, why do you love Reese's Piece Blizzard. It just hits my taste buds right. I can say, oh, I like the peanut butter. I like ice cream. I like crunchy things. I was in the mood for something sweet. Like, I don't know, I can pick apart certain elements, but that's not enough. And so with something like Pulp Fiction, I just, and it's also one of those things that it is so heavily decorated already, formally and casually, that what am I adding to the conversation? I don't know. But I do hope that maybe somebody stumbles upon this that hasn't seen it because whatever reason, and maybe decides to watch it because of this. That would be the goal. But it's so, I get so caught up in how horrible I am at reviewing things. I haven't done a review for a long time either. But anyway, the definition of Pulp Fiction. What is Pulp Fiction? What does that mean? Basically, it's a genre of racy, maybe action-based stories that were kind of in like mass-produced magazines and things. Generally, they're not like, it's not a Stephen King novel that he worked on for years, if we talk about old Stephen King. Just this amazing feat of a publication. It is like meant to be just like, hey, we need to get this off every month. Just like, right, yeah, we just need action stuff, racy stuff, whatever. Just grab people's attention with cheap thrills, basically. And it's just funny that it's called Pulp Fiction because I understand why, but it is anything but cheap. I'll tell you a little bit about it. I'll try to summarize it. First of all, it's done in a non-linear way. So you don't have like, we start here and we end here, and the timeline goes like this. It doesn't. The timeline goes like this. It's not hard to follow. I think by the end of it, even on one single watch, you can be like, okay, wait, when they were wearing this, that must have happened after this. Okay, so then that happened like, okay, oh, all right, yeah. I think the really cool thing about that is that it forces you to reflect on the movie and process things differently when the movie's done. And then you can start thinking about it like that. And that's usually something you don't have to do with the movie, is try to sequence things and figure out the order of events and when happened, what happened when happened when, what happened when, and what that means, right? But it's, again, it's done in a way that's not jarring. It's not a gimmick. It's just, it does make it more interesting, and it is challenging, but in a good way. And I can still relax and chill and just watch the movie. It doesn't make it difficult by any means. However, if you maybe don't follow movies so well, then it might make it more challenging for you than others. Some people just can't follow things very well. That's just the reality for some folks. We've got different stories. We've got an overlapping host of characters, but in these different stories, there's a different focus on different characters at different times, but they all are telling one story, basically, and all these characters do naturally fit together, overlap, connect with each other, interact with each other. It's not just like three random stories that I threw together, but they all happened in LA, so I put them in a movie. Like, it's not that. It deals with high action, it deals with intense situations and drama, but it is delivered with ease. You've got depth along with the surface. I will give you some specifics right now. So, well, I can't give you that many specifics. What is it about? We're 9 minutes in, what is the freaking movie about? How can I tell you that? Basically, the movie revolves around two hitmen and the work that they do for... I don't know why I don't feel like saying character names, but the work that they do for their boss, and just kind of their travels together and apart, and just the community of people around them. Now you can imagine that hitmen at their just by their occupation alone, that's where we get some of these more high action, drama, suspenseful, intense things happening. Just the reality of their work, right? And that is true. The really awesome thing is that basically the film is supported by and is based on what is happening to these characters in between these events. It's not about... I mean, if you... Let's say they have to go and kill somebody. Let's just say that's what hitmen do, and that's what happens. And then there's like, that's the story is like, man, they gotta go, and there's a big shootout, and something goes wrong, and there's this, and there's... But what happens before that? What happens after that? What happens in between, if there is an in-between? What are those conversations like? And that's what this movie does so well, is that dialogue moves things forward, and that's what gives me ease. I know these guys are about to go do some gangster stuff, but like the conversation they're having right now, which I will talk about in the spoilers, that is so interesting, and it provides so much levity and those conversations happen so often that I'm not like, yes, I'm kind of like, oh wow, something's happening right now. That's a real thing. But I am more delighted by the scenes in between the action than the action itself. The action is like is necessary, but it is not what the movie is about. It is not about these hitmen go around and they kill people. That's not, I mean, it's not what it's about. And it doesn't really happen that way. And it's like such a small part of the movie. Like, yes, we're you could replace hitmen with bank robbers, you could replace hitmen with whatever, but it's just like they are humans that have thoughts and feelings and do things, and their line of work makes it a little different and a little more intense, but they're having these conversations with each other. And again, it's not just with each other, but with these other characters that are going around and doing things, and yeah, there's high stakes moments, there's problems, there's conflicts that we don't have. But the beauty of the movie is that we still relate to all the humanness because of all these things that are happening, all these conversations, all these instances, the experiences, the other parts of the drama that have nothing to do with the 30 seconds where someone might get shot or where there is some type of high action sequence. That's not what we're relating to. And I think a lot of times we're like, yeah, of course. I mean, when I'm watching a bank heist movie, it's not because I want to relate. Fair enough. But you're distracted, you're entertained, whatever the goal of that film is, whereas this does both things so well. If I try to draw things back, I say it's funny. It is dark humor. It is something that some people might not find funny, or you might find it shocking, and therefore you laugh. Or it's just because these conversations are, things that certain folks only have with one other person in private and in safety and not in public around anybody, right? These are, in a way, they're intimate conversations. There's something you would have with a best friend. And being a fly on the wall in those moments is entertaining. And I think that the delivery is amusing. And I think that, again, that dialogue is so rich with just, I don't know any other way to say it. Why is it? It's funny because it's funny. But it's funny to me. You have to have a certain type of a sense of humor, right? I mentioned that it's thought-provoking, but it's not thought-provoking in a way of like, oh, yes, like, oh, I see what they did here. Like, I really need to take stock of my life. Like, I am very reflective now. No, it's not. Not that type of thought-provoking. Again, I have to get into that in the spoiler section. I mentioned that it's tense, and that's just because there is some push and pull. There are some things where, how are they going to get out of the situation? This is bananas. But it's like, it's not even proper to say that it's a combination between like, oh, it's comedy where it's like, man, how are they going to get out of this one? Like, oh, he put himself in a jam again. Like, it's like that, but also just like way more dramatic and being like, oh man, like, this doesn't happen. But I mean, it's like, oh man, that guy's going to jail. Like, he can't go to jail because in the movie ends. How is he going to get out of it? James Bond can't die. Like, how is he going to get out of it? Like, it's that kind of thing too. Again, I already mentioned that the dialogue is incredibly engaging. That push and pull with ease, without like a huge shift that's so jarring. That's what's really engaging as well. I mentioned that it's subdued. And that's the thing, is those action sequences are not like high budget explosions and craziness that are the. It's like, yeah, that part happened. Okay, let's move on, and then we'll continue on to like what happens now, right? It's not just like, oh, explosion and people gasping for their last breath, and then the camera pans out and fades to black, and there's silence and dramatic music. No, it's not like that. It's like, yeah, that thing happened. Let's keep going. Let's keep it moving. And that adds to that, just again, that it is intense. There are intense things that happen that I'm like, I can't relate to that. That's bunged up, but I can relate to the fact and how this person is dealing with that problem or doesn't know how to deal with the problem. Anyway, I don't know how to describe why it's funny, but it is. We've got, there's drugs, there's violence, there's, I don't know, I guess there's sex. I mean, of course there is. These are things. This is, for target audience, you need it's a mature audience. And I don't mean mature as in age, I mean mature as in these are things that you understand, that you can handle, that you like, that you understand are the reality of life, that you enjoy watching movies that treat these things with realness and rawness. It's like a lot of black comedy or dark comedy is about, levity because the absurdity of life and having to deal with that, right? And what can we do but laugh in order to distance ourselves from that a bit and to continue on sometimes. And I don't necessarily think that's what's happening here in a conscious way. It just happens to be people palling around that are into doing crazy business, and then stuff happens, and that's just the way they operate. That's just their attitudes and their personality. But yeah, for a mature audience that can handle that. You might be 70 years old, and I wouldn't consider you mature, right? It's like, if you can approach this, and part of it is not just if you're mature or not, but if that's just your thing. And for a lot of people, this isn't their thing. My mom probably wouldn't enjoy this movie. I shouldn't say probably, she would not. It's not her thing, it's not her jam, she's not into that dark humor, she wouldn't be able to follow it, or comprehend it the same way, and just get enjoyment out of it. There's some blood, there's a little bit of gore, but it's not gore hungry by any means. It's not what it's about, but some things happen, and you're there for it, so there you go. Again, if you got a taste for dark humor, and you're mature, and you enjoy depth, it has depth, but it sneaks up on you. It's not just like, oh, I watched this really dramatic movie, and like, it's got it there, and I'll tell you about it in the spoilers in a second here. I think that it's a very, very important film, and part of it is because the dialogue. It is a lesson in how to write dialogue and how dialogue can move things forward. Again, that action drama, it's just done in a way that is so seemingly unique to Tarantino's style. It has its own style. It is its own beast. Like, it is its own thing. I'm sure there's other movies that are similar or whatever, but it's just got such an authentic, original flavor that it's hard to be like, oh yeah, it's kind of like this. Dystopian fiction does this and this and this, and this is just another one in the canon of dystopian fiction that does it so well. Like, no, this is its own thing. Yeah, that action drama is almost secondary. It's bananas. I don't know what else to tell you right now. I think that it is incredibly entertaining. And that is the main reason I watch it, is because it's humorous and it's entertaining and it's done incredibly well. But as for others, like, I think it is an important film, period. If you were going to get into film, you should study this film. If you write anything at all, you should probably watch it. It's just the dialogue between characters is so incredibly important. Nothing is throwaway. Nothing. I mean, that's the way it should be. Nothing. Anything you write or anything that's filmed or whatever, nothing should be. not well thought out. I can't think of a word that's better than that. It's top shelf. Top shelf, top shelf, top shelf. It's, again, kind of genre defying. It doesn't, I hate using so many cliches, but it just doesn't fit neatly into a box. And it does that really well. There's plenty of things that don't fit into a box, but they're garbage. But this just has such a mix of things going on that it is dramatic, but it's not dramatic as in like, oh, this is like some high British drama where or whatever. Like, it's not that kind of drama. It's not, and the crime factor is like, yeah, that's so secondary, even though in a way everything that happens in here is like illegal and not cool and whatever, but it's not the main thing. It's those instances in between that are just, again, so ridiculously interesting that what normally would be mundane, but is filled with wonderful, rich discussion and, again, humor. It's just a joy to watch. I'm going to get into some spoilers. I did a horrible job for 20 minutes telling you why you should watch this movie. And I can't even say I'm sorry. It's too good of a movie, and I'm too horrible of a reviewer. Spoilers happening here. So, what are the spoilers? What was I even going to say? I started thinking about them, and then I forgot them by the time I got here. Like, that foot massage conversation that happens is just, like, so notable and so key, and just like, it's hilarious, it's funny, and yet it's just one of those things that it's almost like Seinfeld. Why didn't I put that in the non-spoiler section? Oh my goodness. I feel like I should go back, but I can't. Anyway, I just realized it's like Seinfeld turned up to 11. It's a R-rated Seinfeld. Seinfeld on HBO would be like Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's R-rated Seinfeld with guns and a little bit of violence and a little bit of sex and a little bit of drugs and a whole bunch of humor. That's what this movie is. I need to cut that and put it up the front. So anyway, yeah, foot massage conversation is one of those things that's just so key for me. All the details, the rich details, and just like, what's in the case, right? You've got what's in the briefcase. That alone just creates lore, right? It creates a myth and being like, what is it? I don't know what it is. It's this, it's that, it's that. And like, does it get confirmed? Yes or no? And why? And how? Some people speculated that it was the soul of Marcellus Wallace. It's glowing. It's beautiful, apparently, by description. It's in a briefcase that is locked with 666 as the code to enter. That Band-Aid on the back of Marcellus Wallace's neck, some people said it's where you extracted the soul. All these things have been refuted, too. But they're fun to think about. And we never get to see it, and we don't know why. And I think, I watched the extras, and I will tell you that if you don't, this is like ruining Christmas for somebody and Santa Claus. If you don't want to hear this, then don't listen to this. But Quentin Tarantino said that originally it was just going to be diamonds in the briefcase. But then he realized that was kind of lame. So he was like, you know what? I don't need to show the people. And that decision right there is what ended up just making this so much more rich of a film. The other thing that I wanted to throw in here was, again, that biblical, what was it, Ezekiel, I don't even remember, I should know this, but the Ezekiel thing that Jules ends up reciting numerous times, and him discussing what that means is like the part of like the most depth of just like change and growth in character and what that means for him and how he's questioning his whole existence now and what he's going to do with his life to give it purpose, but it does it in this way that is so unique and original, and it's like, man, I didn't see that coming at all. It gets introduced earlier in the film, but it's just like by the end of it, he's still struggling with what that means. And the way that Vince makes fun of it is hilarious. But it's also just like, if you were really close with that person, this is what I love. Because the people that I'm close with, that might be how we challenge each other. Being like, you'd be a bum. What do you mean walk the earth? You're a bum. Like, you know what? You don't even get a word for that when you don't have a fixed address or a job. It's called being a bum. Like, it's just realness, and it's hilarious. And again, like all these moments, there's these huge moments that we hinge on, but it's everything. Like sometimes you don't even see it. There's so much that I wish I included in the non-spoiler section, but I'm a fool. You don't even see when oh man, I forgot his name. Butch kills the guy in the ring. You don't see that. You just see him jump out the window and then talk about it with Esmeralda, little Lobos, or whatever her name is, the cab driver. And just like, that's what that was a moment that was like, holy crap, what did that look like? What did that look like when he ran out? Where was Marcellus? Were they trying to get him? How did he escape that? But we don't need that. We know that it happened and we moved on, and now we're talking about it a bit, but now we're moving on to the next thing, and this discussion and that discussion, and what are we going to do? And it's kind of interesting of just getting into these situations, right? Man, I just came to that epiphany, and I just need to end it there. This is like rated R Seinfeld with guns and drugs and sex.